All right, so we're diving deep today into the world of AirPods Max, Apple's high-end headphones. And to guide us, we've got Marquise Brownlee's tech review, MKBHD over on YouTube.
Yeah, his breakdowns are always super thorough.
They are. He really gets into the nitty-gritty. And right off the bat, there's a surprise. Apple decided to use, get this, an all-metal design.
Metal. That's pretty unusual for headphones, isn't it?
You don't see it very often, and I think my first thought was the same as Brownlee's. Like, whoa, aren't those going to be heavy?
Yeah, I can see why that'd be a concern, especially when you think about some of the older all-metal headphones, like those Beats Pros. You remember those?
Oh, yeah, those were notorious for being uncomfortably heavy.
Right, so it is a bit of a gamble
Hmm.
going all metal. You get that premium look and feel, the durability,
Hmm.
but you risk sacrificing comfort.
So how did Apple try to balance that? Because they must known weight would be an issue.
Well, Brownlee points out a few clever design choices. For example, that thin mesh headband. It's not just for looks.
I was wondering about that. It seemed kind of, I don't know, almost delicate.
Yeah, but it's actually key to distributing the weight more evenly, so it doesn't feel like
Got
it's
it.
all concentrated in one spot.
Interesting. So it's form and function. But okay, let's get to the heart of it. The sound. How do the AirPods Max actually sound?
In Brownlee's words,
Great.
really, really good.
Okay, that's promising, but what does that actually mean?
Well, he talks about the bass being clear and punchy, the way you can hear each instrument distinctly,
Yeah.
and the fact that they just don't, cause ear fatigue.
Oh, that's important. I've had headphones that sound great for like an hour, and then my ears just want to break.
And that actually brings up a point Brownlee makes about, like, the two main categories of high-end headphones. You've got your reference headphones.
But those are the studio ones.
Exactly, the ones pros use for mixing and mastering, where it's all about that neutral analytical sound.
Gotcha. So what's the other category?
The luxury listening headphones. And that's where the AirPods Max fall. It's about creating an enjoyable, immersive experience.
Okay. So not for analyzing a track, but for, like, getting lost in the music.
Precisely. And features like wireless connectivity and noise cancellation really reinforce that. They're all about enhancing that listening experience.
Right, because noise cancellation is a huge deal these days. Everyone's trying to outdo each other. So how do the AirPods Max stack up?
Brownlee was really impressed. He actually said the noise cancellation is right up there with the Sony XM4s.
Wow, the XM4s, those are like the gold standard for noise cancellation.
Exactly. And he even gave a specific example. He said he was able to completely block out the sound of a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, wow, that's a pretty vivid image. I can already picture myself in a noisy coffee shop, just completely tuned out.
Right. But here's the thing. He was also blown away by the transparency mode.
Oh, the mode where you can hear your surroundings.
Yeah, he called it the best transparency mode he's ever experienced. Super clear, really good spatial awareness.
Yeah, I love it when transparency mode is done well. It's not just about letting sound in, it's about making it sound natural.
Like you suddenly have super hearings, right?
Exactly. But, for all this talk about premium design and features, there's one thing that Brownlee really didn't like.
Oh, you mean the case?
The case, yeah. It's like the elephant in the room.
He did not hold back. Called it awkward, flimsy, and just plain frustrating to use.
What were the main issues?
Well, the shape's weird. It doesn't really protect the headphones, especially that mesh headband. No magnetic closure, which is annoying. And get this, there's no off button on the headphones themselves.
What? So you have to use the case to put them into low power mode?
That's right. Brownlee even said that while the battery life's good, like 16 to 20 hours, the case kind of overshadows it.
It's like they put so much effort into certain aspects and then just drop the ball on others, like serving a gourmet meal on a paper plate.
Yeah, it's a strange disconnect.
Speaking of disconnect, Brownlee mentioned that you can use the AirPods Max with Android, but you lose most of those smart features.
So not ideal if you're not fully committed to Apple.
Are there any other quirks we should be aware of?
He mentioned a bit of sound bleed at higher volumes.
Yeah.
So maybe not the best choice for quiet libraries.
Gotcha. But you can use them wired, right? If the battery dies.
Yep, that is an option. So it's kind of a mixed bag so far. Amazing sound, top-notch noise cancellation, very Apple-centric, but that case and the weight are potential issues.
Yeah, for sure. Out of all this, what surprised you the most?
I think it's the all-metal design.
Yeah.
It's such a bold choice. They clearly tried to address the weight issue, but it makes you wonder, what were they thinking? Going against the grain like that.
It's a good question. It makes me think, for you personally, what are your must-haves in a pair of headphones? What would make you spend this much?
That's a tough one. I'd definitely be weighing the pros and cons carefully. How about you? What are your deal breakers?
So we keep coming back to this metal design, and I keep thinking about those Beats Pros that Brownlee mentioned. What made them so uncomfortable?
Well, it seems like they were just too heavy.
Yeah.
Pinching the ears, squeezing the head. Like, they prioritized the look of the metal over actual comfort.
Yeah, because comfort's kind of important with headphones. You don't want to be listening to music and getting a headache.
Exactly. And at least with the AirPods Max, it seems like Apple's tried to address that weight problem, like with that mesh headband we were talking about.
Yeah, that probably helps distribute the weight a bit more evenly.
And the over-ear design with those plush ear cups probably makes a difference too. So, it's not just a solid chunk of metal on your head.
Okay, that's good to know. But it brings us back to the question of, like, who are these headphones actually for? Because they're not exactly cheap.
You'd think they'd be targeting, like, serious audiophiles or something.
Right. People who are really looking for a specific sound experience.
But Brownlee makes it clear that these aren't about, that super flat reference-grade audio. They're aimed at a broader audience.
Yeah.
People who prioritize enjoyment over, purely analytical listening.
So it's more about the whole package, the Apple integration, the ease of use, the noise cancellation, and yeah, great sound, but not necessarily audiophile level.
Yeah, like they're trying to capture that same magic they have with the regular AirPods, but taking it to a more, premium level.
And you can't argue with the success of the regular AirPods, even with that interesting design.
Those white stems are pretty hard to miss. But speaking of design, can we talk about that case again? I mean, Brownlee really hated it.
It was pretty brutal. Like, it's almost funny how much he disliked it.
It is kind of baffling. It's like they put all this effort into the headphones, and then the case is just an afterthought.
Maybe they thought that Apple magic would just, like, rub off on the case, and people wouldn't care.
Maybe. But as Brownlee said, functionality matters. A case needs to protect your headphones, be easy to use, and ideally not be ugly. And this one seems to miss the mark on all those points.
It's almost like they used up all their design energy on the headphones themselves, and then just ran out of steam when it came to the case.
Yeah, it's a weird oversight, especially for a company known for, paying attention to detail. You'd think they would caught those issues, like the awkward shape or the lack of protection, during testing.
Makes you wonder if they actually tested it with real people, or
Yeah.
just assumed it would be fine because, well, it's Apple.
Good point. It just goes to show that even the biggest companies can make some head-scratching decisions. But let's move on to something more positive. The noise cancellation and transparency mode. Brownlee was really happy with those.
Oh yeah, he was. And comparing the noise cancellation to the Sony XM4s, that's high praise.
It is. And it wasn't just that it blocked out noise well. He talked about how the AirPods Max achieve that natural sound, without that feeling of pressure you get with some other noise-canceling headphones.
Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of them feel like they're sucking your eardrums out.
It can be pretty intense, but it sounds like Apple's found a way to do it without sacrificing comfort.
And then there's the transparency mode, which Brownlee called the best he's ever heard. That's saying something, coming from him.
Yeah, he was really impressed with the clarity and the spatial awareness. Like you could hear sounds not just from the outside world, but from specific directions.
I've tried headphones with transparency mode before, but it always sounded kind of artificial, like I was listening through a microphone.
If it's as good as Brownlee says, this could be a real game changer.
It would be amazing being able to have a conversation without taking your headphones off. Or, being aware of your surroundings while still enjoying your music.
It's like the best of both worlds. Immersed in your audio, but still connected to the real world. Sounds pretty good to me.
I'm sold. But, we still have to remember the price and that case situation. Those are still big factors.
Yeah, it's like they almost nailed it. But those flaws are hard to ignore.
It's that classic case of almost there, so much potential, but those drawbacks are just hanging over everything.
Like they had the perfect recipe, but forgot a key ingredient. Or maybe added a bad ingredient that ruins the whole dish.
Yeah, that's a better analogy. But hey, that's technology, right? Always evolving, always room for improvement.
Absolutely. And speaking of evolution, it makes me think about where the AirPods Max fit into the bigger picture of audio tech and where things are going next.
That's a perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive. But before we go there, let's quickly recap what we've covered so far.
We've talked about the AirPods Max's design choices, from that all-metal construction to that, well, controversial case. We've looked at the sound quality, the impressive noise cancellation and transparency mode, and how well they work with Apple devices.
And we've discussed who these headphones are actually for, given the price and those potential downsides.
It's been a fascinating conversation, full of surprises. So get ready for the final part, where we'll explore what the AirPods Max mean for the future of audio tech.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the AirPods Max themselves, but now I'm thinking about the bigger picture. Like where do they fit in the whole world of audio tech? What are they telling us about where things are going?
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I think they're kind of pointing to a couple of big trends that we're seeing in the industry. One is this whole idea of like premiumization, where companies are focusing on making these really luxurious listening experiences,
Yeah.
and often with a price tag to match.
Right. It's not just about sound quality anymore. It's about the whole experience.
Exactly. It's almost like a lifestyle thing now,
Yeah.
a statement. And the AirPods Max definitely fit into that.
Totally. And the other trend I'm seeing is like this focus on ecosystem integration.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. And the AirPods Max are a perfect example with how well they connect to Apple devices and Siri and all those extra features. It's clear they want to keep you in that Apple world.
Which makes sense from a business perspective, but it makes me wonder about, choice. What about people who aren't using Apple products?
That's a good point. It's a trade-off, right? Are you willing to be locked into a certain ecosystem for the sake of those extra features?
It's almost like choosing a phone, Android or iOS.
Yeah.
It affects so many other choices you make.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm curious to see how this all plays out. Will we see even more of this ecosystem focus? Or will there be a pushback towards more open devices that work with anything?
It's like a tug of war, almost. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about pure audio innovation. What's coming down the pipeline? What are you excited about?
Well, one thing that's really cool is personalized sound profiles.
What's that?
Imagine headphones that can actually adjust the sound based on your individual hearing.
No way. How is that even possible?
Some companies are working on headphones with tiny microphones built in, and they use algorithms to analyze how your ear responds to different frequencies.
So it's not just about, like, boosting the bass or something. It's actually customizing the sound to my ear.
Exactly. It's like having a personalized concert every time you put on your headphones.
That's wild. It makes those EQ settings on my music app seem so basic.
Yeah, it's a big step forward. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of innovation in the future.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot. The good, the bad, and the potentially amazing. So, bottom line, are the AirPods Max worth it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think for the right person, they could be great. Someone who's already all in on Apple and really values that premium listening experience.
But if you're looking for the absolute best sound quality or something that works with all your devices, maybe not so much.
And of course, there's the price. It's a big investment. You really have to weigh if it's worth it for you.
I think that's a good takeaway. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. What would your ideal pair of headphones be like? What features would make you say, I have to have those?
And remember, technology is always moving forward. What seems crazy today might be totally normal tomorrow. So keep exploring, keep listening, and, see what the future of audio brings.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AirPods Max.
Happy listening, everyone.